Hey guys, this is Caspi with Tape, and today you join me with episode 36 of Solar Civilization, and we're picking up where we left off, with the vehicle that actually works that I left in orbit of the moon. This is my big old moon battery, because, the moon nights are very long. They're about, I think, the moon in Kerbal Space Program takes about a day and a half to orbit, so it's, like, almost a day. So it's like 3/4 of a day you're out of the sunlight. So I'm going to need a big battery to keep my Kerbals alive because life support is a cruel mistress. So yeah, I did bring a habitation module, as you probably saw in last episode, but didn't go great because I didn't build it very well, and Infernal Robotics did something weird, so kind of died. Well, no, it's actually still in orbit, but I gave up on it. But I will be replacing that today. Anyway, I've actually targeted the landing site so I don't forget which one I'm landing at, as per last episode. Um, and after a quick burn north, I should be well on my way to to land close to that Kethane miner, which I did put down a while ago and have used once actually. Annoyingly, the footage I actually lost. This was a while ago, but I did a mission to a couple of biomes and I just used that to refuel, and I did in fact lose the footage. But that's a shame. That was a while ago now, though. But yeah, so the Kethane miner will be probably a key part of this whole moon base operation. Will mean I won't have to keep flying keep flying fuel into space. Anyway, after putting those solar panels away, it's just time to land because I don't want to break them when I land. These little engines aren't actually as powerful as I'd like, as I kind of keep experiencing in this episode, because this is my kind of standard landing situation on the moon. But this is actually one of the closest landings I've ever had, without any real fine-tuning, just basically put myself down within 300 meters, or, well, within 400 meters of the Kethane miner. So, that was pretty good. I just basically ignited my engines, and then I was really proud, actually. But yeah, this battery carries about 40,000 units of electric charge. That should keep, I think, 10 Kerbals alive. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, it is on a slope. I wish I'd landed slightly down in the crater, but I don't think it'll actually work so well down there because there might not be Kethane. So maybe I'll check. But I won't be able to move this because I've got to drop that sky crane. So this slope is where we will be living on the moon. Very important place. I think I've probably mentioned this before. It's on a crater, so the geologists will. Oh shit. Yeah, I just broke my solar panels there with the sky crane. I just ignited the engines, and they broke a couple of the solar panels. Only two of them though, so it's fine. Yeah, as I was saying, this is important because it's in a crater, so the geologists will like it. But you can also see Kerbal in the night sky, so other scientists will like it. It's very well picked out. But yeah, that even though those solar panels were broken, those engines did manage to break it. But the sky crane will slam into the crater somewhere over there, as I do with most of my sky cranes. I just slam them into the moon. Um, but I won't be landing things on sky cranes anymore in this episode because the best way to do it's with Infernal Robotics, and Infernal Robotics doesn't work so well for me recently. But yeah, so I still have these two big solar panels, which is fine. That will provide all the solar power I will need. I'm hoping. I have no reason to believe that, but I'm hoping. And the other things will also have solar panels on them. Basically, it's got to support all the Kerbals in the day and fill up the electric charge by the night. So that's yeah pretty important. Um, but yeah, so I'm hoping that this will all work now, and I can link that. Well, I've got to move this first, but I can actually link that to this so I can get more power and do more things. But first, it's time to move it. I don't need to be worried about fuel with this because it is a fuel generator, effectively. Well, a fuel miner. I don't know why I called it a generator, but it effectively generates fuel. Um, out of Kethane. Yeah, it does have a fuel generator on the top, so I was right. Oh, you can see something flying over the. I didn't notice that before, but there's like a little marker just flying over the horizon. That was cool. I like noticing things in orbit. I do it a lot now because there's so much crap in orbit. I always look at the debris as well because a lot of stuff in orbit, and I'm just checking Kethane is over here as well. Luckily for me, there is indeed Kethane, which means I can, well, make this a sustainable base. So let's make myself some fuel, fill us up on fuel just in case I send something else here. Well, I will be sending stuff this episode, but no people this episode, because I have other things to do, and I only have a few launches, and I was going to do some launches on my new space plane, but my new space plane isn't working amazingly. But yeah, anyway, we've filled up on liquid fuel and oxidizer, so that's good. Anyway, we have other things to do. This is kind of the main stage of my new rocket, which I have flown a few times. I'm just working on some landing legs made out of like struts and infernal robotics parts because the normal landing legs aren't really that big. They probably work, but I'd like some bigger ones. But the problem with this is these are very weak parts, and this weighs a lot. It would never land with this much fuel, but if it can't, it should be able to hold this because it's going to be coming down with force when I do land it in real life. But yeah, so this does technically work if I get it right, but yeah, it's very weak, and as I'm going to do a very tiny jump now, so I can just land with a little bit of force. I'm just going to cut the engines about a meter into the air, so it just like really stresses those, and it really does damage them, and now it flails around everywhere, not because of the landing legs, but because of the launch struts. But still, I'm not fully happy with this. So I came up with another design. I'm not going to implement this, of course, because it doesn't work particularly well. But this is my other design. It has some landing legs actually on it, and it basically replaces the other piece of metal with actual landing legs. I've done the landing legs in kind of a weird way, actually. And I try to be really slick and do the landing legs and the infernal robotics at the same time, but I didn't realize I was typing into the thing instead of actually changing my landing legs. Anyway, I'm going to deploy them and then put this out at kind of very high speed. And the way they're tilted means it gives you a very wide landing base, which is quite nice. I think that would work quite well if I could put struts on it. But I can't put struts on it because it has to do that in midair. And it doesn't hold it amazingly, actually. As you can see here, it kind of sways a bit. But it does do better than the last one, so I'm going to attempt a little hop. Obviously, I'm going to use the translatron because it is very difficult flying something like this manually. So yeah, I'm going to just... Oh, I haven't activated the engine. Good one, Peter. Anyway, yeah, so let's just go vertical, clear the launch pad, and fly sideways as to not hit the launch pads should this fail. Well, it's not so important now, but I guess if I was playing this in a .25 Korea mode, then it would be very important because I might just break the launch pad. But that is possible. Yeah, the next update for KSP is actually going to be .9, and that's like, well, .25, .90, that makes sense. But basically it's going from alpha to beta. I don't know what they think beta is, because surely alpha is testing simply within the company with no outside resources. So technically isn't it, surely it's in beta right now. Wouldn't it just be going into further beta? I don't know. That's always confused me. I always thought alpha was, testing within your organization and beta was testing with outside testers. But I don't know. They probably know more than me, given that they... Okay, well, whatever. But yeah, it will be moving into beta and obviously moving up to proper release, which will be nice. Well, basically it's just going to mean they're going to have a very finished game, so won't be able to leave out like interiors anymore, and they're going to have to put in all the biomes for all the planets, and maybe... Actually, I have read that there are other plans for like new planets, like a couple more gas giants, just really, flesh out the game. I think that is important that they put in more planets, because I mean, most of the people playing it right now, well, I don't know if most of the people, but a lot of the people, me included, have been to pretty much every celestial body. I mean, I haven't been to I've only not been to Tylo and Val, I think. Although I have flown past both of those. But yeah, so it would be nice to see some new planets. Anyway, let's shut down the engines, and then our landing leg breaks. And then we fall over. But it's a very hardy spacecraft, well, very hardy craft, so it doesn't actually break. So that's technically a feasible way of landing it, not in real life, but this is of course Kerbal Space Program. Anyway, leaving those landing legs in the workshop, it's time to launch this rocket and go and take something to the moon. Forgot to strut those boosters, so they're kind of flailing a bit. But yeah, this is again taking a fairly light payload to orbit, only about 25 tons, which could have been done by one of my smaller rockets. But this is actually pretty much my best rocket for reusing, and I do want to get this reusable, because if I have a reusable 100-ton, 70-ton, whatever lifter, it's better. There's no point having the other one. Anyway, I do love how those SRBs separate, and in the last episode I did demonstrate that those are reusable, because those would land safely. But yeah, so if I can get this rocket to work, I only really need this rocket. I probably won't even need space planes, which would be good, because I love the idea of space planes, but I'm not actually very good with them, as you may be able to tell. My big space plane right now is about a 10-ton lifter, but it's still got a lot of. It just doesn't fly right. I think I might put some more engines on it or something, give it some more thrust. I don't know. But anyway, this will be another kind of reusability test of this rocket. I do need to see what's going on with Ferrum Aerospace, because again, as you'll see in this episode, it's not working properly. Maybe it's the parts, maybe it's I don't know. And I can't get the newest version because this is 0.24 because I can't update because of mods. Which does call into question how long this series will be going on. But I would like it to go on for a while. I guess until it's just completely invalid. But we'll see. Anyway, I need to extend all these solar panels so that this will not die when I leave it. Because it would be nice to actually get this to the moon, because I have had a few failed moon things recently, well actually like one. Anyway, I just checked that and that does have the delta V required to land. I'll just hope that it'll slow down in the atmosphere. I'm not sure if I'm just gonna do some tests and see if I can get Ferrum to work properly. And it's not actually a massive problem. It's just returning those big stages, and maybe it's the parts, maybe it's me just thinking it should slow down more than it does, but I don't know. Anyway, it's time to go to the moon. So yeah, this is actually a very heavy payload. Well, it's a 20-ton payload being pushed by that tiny engine, so it only has about 0.5 Gs of acceleration. Well, 0.5 G of acceleration, or whichever you want to say, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I've started burning a little early, and I was just taking a look at the debris, as I said earlier, because I do like to look at all the debris I have in orbit. I do often think of maybe building like an ion-powered thing that brings stuff out of orbit of Kerbin, but Kessler syndrome's not going to be a problem. Actually, it's just not. And if it is, that makes a really good video. I mean, imagine that. I'm just flying something like a shuttle, and then just gravity situation. Someone slams into my wing, and then Tom Clooney dies, but I tell him he's beautiful, and that'd just be a great episode. If I could get Tom Clooney on it. George Clooney. Who the fuck is Tom Clooney? I apologize for my language, but Tom Clooney, God. George Clooney, right? I am right about that. Well, either way, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get him on an episode. Oh wait, no, that will never happen. Anyhow, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's been a long day. Not really. It's been a really not very long day. I had like 2 lessons. Although one of them was a physics test, but it was on circular motion, which is like orbital mechanics. So, yeah, I was just like, this is Kerbal, so I don't have to revise. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. Anyway, enough of my day. More of this booster's day. I'm just using the those vernier thrusters, which use liquid fuel and oxidizer to stabilize and translate this spacecraft through space. And it's starting to come back into the atmosphere. And actually, if you know anything about Ferrum Aerospace, or just generally KSP, tell me if this looks too fast. This is at 4 times time accelerated still. I just mean when it gets closer to the ground, tell me if I'm going too fast, because it gets down to about 8 kilometers, and I'm still moving, like, I think above a kilometer per second. That seems, that's too fast. Like, it should slow down more than that. So I don't want to have to do re-entry burns, because I can land this, because I only took 20 tons to orbit, but it does require a huge amount of fuel, because I have loads of fuel left over. But, obviously, this needs to be more than a 20-ton lifter. But yeah, you can see I'm below 20 kilometers and still going near orbital velocity. Although is that 19 or 14? Stupid post-render. God damn you, screen. Anyway, yeah, I think that's 17 now, 16. And it is slowing down pretty well now, but it's still like 10 kilometers and 1,500 meters a second. Yeah, see, this is too fast. And I'm obviously having to burn my engines, to slow myself down. So, is that the parts? Is Ferrum just out of date? And I'll try and fix that, I guess. Although I have fixed it in the past. I'm not sure. And then I try to slow it down with MechJeb. And it does actually slow down. So I can do this with this amount of fuel, but I had to burn like 3,000 units of fuel. Well, 2,000 units of fuel to get me to where I am. Which is too much. And then I make the stupid decision of turning off when it's not stable. And then it may lose a little bit of control, maybe a little bit, and then kind of, yeah, MechJeb does its best to gain control, but simply can't, because it's out of control now. Kind of does a SpaceX, flips out of control, and buries itself in the ocean. So that wasn't great. But I have already reused that one, actually, technically, because last episode I did land it successfully. So it's had 2 flights. So that wasn't great, but it was better than, an Atlas rocket or a space launch system. I've actually named that launch vehicle Odin. But yeah, I will try and I'll do my best to fix that, because it should be slower and I should be able to aero brake more, and litho brake less. Although that was water, so that'll be hydro braking, I guess. Now, litho braking is actually a real thing. I mean, the original rovers on Mars, what was it? I feel like one of them was called Discovery. Nope, that was a space shuttle. Why can't I remember that Mars? Well, it doesn't matter. The ones before Curiosity, those actually landed on parachutes, and then they had this inflation thing, and they inflated, and the things around them inflated, and they hit the ground, and they actually litho braked by rolling. Obviously, that wasn't all of their braking. Most of it was done by the parachute, but yeah, litho braking's a real thing. But usually the stuff survives, unlike my big old booster just then. Anyway, we are, of course, with the habitation modules that are bound for the moon. And I'm gonna just speed through most of this, because it's a fairly standard landing, and it goes pretty well. So yeah, I'm gonna, spoiler alert. So yeah, I'm just gonna burn and touch down at the target. Basically, these ditch the fuel tanks, but keep the engines on them, just because I didn't really want to do another sky crane, because that didn't go great. And I have included a reaction wheel, because, last time it was difficult to control, and I didn't like landing without reaction wheels, actually. Launching without them, that's fine. It's easy to launch. You can always gimbal your engines. But when I want to turn and not burn my engines, that's a problem. But yeah, I'm just trying to really pinpoint the target. And I have quite a bit of fuel. I have more fuel than I thought I would, but I'm still traveling very fast. So I'm just kind of burning my engines hell for leather and trying to slow down as quickly as possible. And yeah, but it does look like I might just slow down. I do go past the target, but that's fine. I still have fuel. And then just kind of burn backwards and fly over there. So yeah, that actually went pretty well. I was very happy with that landing. I do very much like this lander design for, because it keeps the engines, and I quite like how that looks. And then it just ditches the fuel tank, because the fuel tank is ugly, and I don't need it. Although it might be useful to keep, but I'm not gonna. So yeah. So this is really going to be the permanent place of my base, unless I buy a bunch of send up a bunch of new stuff. Anyway, I'll eject that with its SRBs, and that looks fine. Anyway, skipping ahead, because you don't need to see the same thing again. This is the other one, just landing fairly standardly. It did do the same thing. It flew past a bit, and I did some, kind of bit of ballet with landing on the engines. But yeah, it looks like it's going to land pretty well. Maybe a little too hard, but there are no Kerbals on board. I'll probably be bringing Kerbals in a future episode. Well, I will definitely be bringing Kerbals in a future episode. That's kind of the point of a base. But yeah, this is set up. It has all the life support it needs. It has all the batteries. And yeah, so I will indeed be bringing Kerbals to the surface of the moon to stay for permanent. Unlike the temporary research base I had before. I did have a temporary research base. If you remember, it was actually the 13th episode, and everything went wrong because it was like Apollo 13. But anyway, enough of that. I'm just going to shut down these engines, and I'm going to say I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.